If you're using a Mac computer, you're going to want to follow these directions, get the new Visual Studio Code and have it configured. First, go to Microsoft.com and we're going to go to All Microsoft and then Visual Studio. That'll be under the Developer and IT section. On this website, you'll see the Visual Studio link at the very beginning. We got to skip past that and scroll down till you see Visual Studio Code. Go ahead and download that. There's only one Mac OS Universal package. When it's downloaded, go ahead into your Finder and your downloads, and it might be a zip file, so go ahead and right-click and open with the archive utility. And you will then have the Visual Studio Code. Take that and drag it to your applications. In Applications, go ahead and double-click to launch Visual Studio Code, and we have to install several extensions. I'm going to close out of the release notes, close out of the welcome. On the left-hand side, this little square icon is extensions. Click on that. And the first one we want is .NET, so hit .NET, capital letters, and install the .NET installer extension. Next thing we're going to install is the C#. We want the C# dev kit, which will automatically install the C# base language support. When they're done, install the IntelliCode. Then we're going to search for Unity. Install the Unity integration. This is the one from Microsoft. And then we're going to skip down and look for Unity code snippets and install that. Once they are all installed, we're actually going to close out of Visual Studio Code completely. And that way, next time it starts up, it will have all the plugins ready to use. Now that that's installed, we can go back into our Unity Hub. Let's go ahead and create a new project if you don't have one already. I'm going to go ahead and do the Universal 3D Core. And give it a project name. I'm just going to keep the default for this example. And the steps I'm showing you now will have to be done for every project. So once the project is loaded, we're going to go to Window, Package Manager, and you should have Visual Studio Code Editor. We want to uninstall that, so select that and hit Remove. Make sure it's the Studio Code Editor. Remove that one. And then we're going to look for updates for the Visual Studio Editor. You'll see this one has a little arrow by it. We want to go ahead and update this. So if we select it here, up in the right-hand corner, update to 2.022. There might be a newer release by the time you watch this video. If there is, go ahead and update to the most recent release. So now we can close out of the Package Manager. We're going to go and double check one last thing. We're going to go to Unity Settings and the External Tools. And we want to make sure that it does say Visual Studio Code. This is a drop-down. If it says Open by File Extension, choose the drop-down and make sure Visual Studio Code is selected. And then if it is not selected and you change it to Visual Studio Code, go ahead and click Regenerate Project Files just to make sure everything is ready. If you do not see Visual Studio Code as an option, go back and make sure that when you downloaded Visual Studio Code from the internet, that you moved it to your applications folder. I have found that if you download Visual Studio Code and keep it in the downloads folder, it does not recognize it. You must move that Visual Studio Code to the applications folder. But after you've done that, everything should work as expected. I'm going to go ahead and close out the preferences. Now the editor will look a little different than the Windows counterparts, but functionally it should be nearly identical. just as a quick example, I'm going to go ahead and create a 3D cube. I'm going to come over and add a new script. I'll call this spinner. New script. Create an add and open up my spinner. When I double click it, you'll see it automatically launches Visual Studio Code and gives me the framework that I need to start developing. I can turn off the Explorer over here just by clicking on it to have more screen space for my program, and I can also scroll down my output here. I could even close this out totally because I'm not going to be doing too much debugging in here. I'll do most of my debugging in Unity. Let's just do something really quick here in the update. We'll take the transform and we'll rotate it around. Let's do this. We're going to rotate it around up, and we'll do it at 10 degrees per second. And we'll do that to time.delta time. Something really, really simple. Go ahead and save that. Come back to Visual Studio Code. It should reload and compile our code. If we have any errors, we'd see it over here. We don't, so let's go ahead and run our application. And there is our cube slowly spinning around the up axis. So that's just a quick demo of how to get Visual Studio Code installed and working on a Mac, and how to test to make sure that it is indeed working. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know as soon as possible.